Hello, everybody, and welcome to a very rare cold open from Out on That Line. We had a little bit of a snafu at the beginning of the episode this week, so we're just going to hit you with the theme music and drop you right into the biscuits. So without further ado, here is track 71 on Out on That Line.
But there is something this week that we do need to talk about, and far more important is the death of Taylor Hawkins, the drummer for the Foo Fighters. Obviously we'll get it out of the way. On this podcast, we've had a history of some disparagement of the Foo Fighters. At no point did I ever really doubt the musicianship and kind of the person that is Taylor Hawkins. My disdain has generally been for Dave Grohl for the most part. So I was legitimately really sad to hear about this, mostly because we've also got friends that love Taylor Hawkins, that love the Foo Fighters, and by extension love Taylor Hawkins. So it was a tough pill to swallow to see that it happened.
Yeah, definitely. And, like you said, we have a lot of close friends who were really shaken by this because Taylor Hawkins meant a lot to them. And here's a weird story. One such person I can say freely is Tanner, as drummer to drummer. So he and I were watching Long Promised Road, the documentary about Brian Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
And completely out of nowhere, Taylor Hawkins' face just shows up, and he's going on and on and on about Brian Wilson. Taylor Hawkins, big Beach Boys guy. You could have knocked me over with a feather. I did not expect him to pop up in that documentary. And the fact that he loves the beach, or like he was like a Beach Boys encyclopedia in that interview. So the fact that hey, he gets it. He gets the boys.
Mm-hmm.
Was kind of a cool, all right, I feel a little kinship with this guy. And it you see all the reactions. You know what I mean? He just seemed like such a well-liked guy.
Mm-hmm.
That it's hard to watch these people mourn this hard,
Yeah, and he also played on a Coheed and Cambria album. So
I think you told me that, yeah.
Yeah, so that's where it kind of really hit a little close to home for me, being a huge Coheed fan, is he played all of the drums on the studio version of No World for Tomorrow, the second Good Apollo album. And I mean, it's some of the songs on that album are some of my favorites of anything that Coheed does. Like Feathers is one of the best pop rock, pop punk songs you'll ever hear in your life. The title track, No World for Tomorrow, is one of the heavier songs that Coheed's ever done. And he played drums on both of them. He was responsible for the kind of rhythm and feel of both of those songs on that album. And they're two of my favorites that Coheed's ever done. So it's, he was certainly talent-wise, there's better drummers at doing one specific thing than he was, but he seemed to be so versatile and good at everything that he tried to play. And he even sang. He'd sing when they do the Led Zeppelin covers. And he could sing pretty damn well too. So I mean, he was just a very talented dude. Seemed to get every last bit of joy out of doing what he did.
Yeah, and as tribute to him, I want to drop a nuclear for the ages mea culpa.
Oh no.
And I'm not even I'm not being crass and doing a bit with Taylor Hawkins' death. I sincerely mean Taylor Hawkins' death was what got me thinking about this. So in the wake of that, Tanner and Rory are talking. Rory, who never listens to the show, we've established, so get ready to get trashed, Rory. Rory and Tanner and I are talking about Taylor Hawkins' death. And since I'm not as connected, A, to Foo Fighters or B, to drumming, I kind of just cooled out and was listening to this take shape. And Rory kept coming back to the Dave Grohl of it all. And he's like, I don't like fucking Dave Grohl because of what he did, re-recording those drum parts without telling the original drummer. That's a shitty thing to do. I don't care if you give him credit. That's disrespectful as an artist. And he had this whole monologue. And Tanner was advocating for, like, you don't really know what went on, man. Like, you don't know what was going on behind the scenes. And I
Yeah.
just had this moment where I was like, holy shit. If I were to hold that kind of thing against Dave Grohl, I would be a massive hypocrite because I'm a Frank Zappa fan, so we'll get that bit in too. But I really thought about it, and I'm like, Frank Zappa, it was Frank Zappa and the Mothers of Invention when it started. Or it was just the Mothers of Invention, and then it became Frank Zappa and the Mothers of Invention, and then it became Frank Zappa. So he kind of took that band over and made whatever personnel changes he saw fit for whatever made the piece that he was working on, whatever was going to give it the greatest chance to be a success. You can call that cutthroat. You can call that being you can call that art. Maybe it's somewhere in between, but that's what he used to do. And I'm like, if Dave Grohl had a vision and he's doing this shit, I can't really judge him on the basis of me being a Zappa fan. My criticisms of the music remain. I think those are still valid.
Yeah.
But I got to take my fucking foot off the gas with the Grohl hate. So in honor of Taylor Hawkins, I am laying down my sword with Dave Grohl. Next time he's in Vermont, we'll get some poke bowl or something.
Okay, well, I'm not ready to do the same just yet, but I do think it was a massive loss that Taylor Hawkins is no longer with us. So, there was a lot of speculation. I think the toxicology report came out and it said he had something like 10 different substances in his system. And the first thing I kind of thought of was like, the way people are going to look at that is that he was doing a whole bunch of drugs and overdosed. And we don't know how many of those things he was prescribed, and there's a lot of different things that, the things he was dealing with, he was an addict in the past, he had some mental health issues that he was addressing. So people get medicated as a way to try to alleviate those things and make their life livable again, or at least to the extent that it can be. And, I think that's where people need to like step off the gas a little bit about, speculating about what he died of. He was young. He was 50. So saying it was natural causes is unlikely for somebody that seemed to be generally in pretty good health otherwise. But none of us really know what medications he was taking, what sort of things were going on behind the scenes with his health, because who knows whether he would have been public with that information or not. So I think it's just better to leave it alone and not speculate on, the things that he had in his system and whether he was abusing those things or not.
Yeah, no, that's not something I'm interested in talking about in any way,
Yeah.
No point.
Yeah.
Disrespectful.
That was one thing that I just saw, and it kind of pissed me off a little bit that I saw people were doing that. So, I just wanted to kind of get out there and say, like, I think it's bullshit when you do something like that.
Yeah. Boo to you.
Yeah.
You fuckers.
Well, do you have any other thoughts?
I do
Taylor
not.
Hawkins. Okay.
No,
I don't either. Yeah. Just a big loss, and, sorry to everybody that really was a big fan of his. I can't imagine how that feels. It's just no fun. And, hopefully they keep making music for you.
Yep.
Yeah. That's all I can really say. All right. Well, the album that we're going to do this week is from none other than Charli XCX and her new album Crash. When did this one come out? Like middle of March, correct?
Yeah, a week or two ago.
Yeah, so very fresh. So I assume lots of people have heard it. Maybe many of our listeners. She's a very popular artist. I think she is I want to say one of the more like polarizing of the pop artists. I think whether it's like, I feel like there's like a upper echelon of people that are like, Beyonce and like that level. And then she might be like a tier or two below that. So there's a lot of people, I feel like she gets a lot of hate on Twitter, a lot from what I see. And that could just be the people that I follow. Maybe aren't going to be Charli XCX fans, but I felt like there was enough on this album for me to be like, yeah, I can see why people like her. And I didn't really hate it either.
Yeah, that's the thing is, admittedly, my Charli XCX knowledge is limited, but with the best context that I have. So in terms of like, you're talking about a pop star tier, the way I think of her is the way that I heard the wrestler Triple H described. he's the guy that works with the guy that draws the money. Because that was the story of Charli XCX for a long time. She had the Icona Pop I Love It song. She had Fancy with Iggy Azalea. She had all of these things that she was bringing to these other artists and getting a feature, but like wasn't necessarily known as much in the mainstream for her solo stuff. 19 was one of her albums. It was like a early pandemic album. I enjoyed the shit out of that. It was like very weird. Weirder than this album would suggest. So therein, I think, to tie in with your thing, is this is going to be a polarizing album for a lot of different reasons. If you're a fan, hopefully you dug this turn in direction. And if you aren't a fan and you liked this, don't expect the rest of her shit to be like this. So everybody's kind of in peril with this one, which I find kind of interesting.
Yeah. And I haven't really gone back and listened to much of her solo stuff. I've heard, obviously, all those songs you mentioned were massive pop hits, so you heard them wherever you went. But I never really got into her solo stuff, or at least not that I knew of. There was that one song, was it Let's Ride? That there was a video of somebody riding like a pink motorcycle in a fully like pink outfit online. It was like a meme, but that's what the song was used for. That was probably the song I've heard most by Charli XCX, was whatever meme that was getting used in.
That one is going completely over my head. I couldn't tell you what that song sounds like.
Yeah, it's like Let's Ride. And it's like this weird, like kind of industrial beat. Yeah, if you hear it, you'll recognize it because you've been on the internet long enough. You've seen it at some point, and you'll be like, "Oh, that song." Yeah, I guarantee it. But that's like the extent of my knowledge. And there were a couple points on this album where I was like, "This song is awesome," and it kind of. And I guess we'll get into it probably a little later, and this is maybe just a teaser, but like I got some very Dua Lipa sort of vibes on a few of these songs. And I think, when we get into those songs, we'll talk a lot more about that. But do you just want to get right into the first pick on the album?
Sure.
Okay. So the first one was one of your picks, Crash.
So as far as I can tell from the interviews that I've read with Charli XCX, she considers herself an anti-pop star. But she's also obsessed with this concept of selling out. She's mentioned on more than one occasion, selling out is such an interesting idea to me because why wouldn't you want success and why would you be an asshole for going after it? At the same time, I completely acknowledge that it makes some people completely full of shit. So again, it's a wonderful, like, delicate balance that you have to have with fame. So this idea of her as the anti-pop star, she decided she wanted to kind of do a concept album around selling out. And it's not a hard and fast concept album in terms of like song to song tells a story, but overall it is one concept, which is what if Charli XCX sold out and just made a hit record for the mainstream? And that's basically what this first song is the introduction to that concept throughout the entire thing.
Do you kind of get like Searching for a Former Clarity vibes from this when you describe it that way?
I wouldn't, actually, but I don't know why you would, so tell me why you would.
So that, because Searching for a Former Clarity was kind of like acknowledging what was to come, from Against Me. And maybe that sort of, almost like an apology to be like, well, if you liked me before, like, thanks for coming along for the ride, but like, daddy needs new shoes, that kind of thing, like you have an opportunity to write some hits and make some dough. You go do that thing, it's hard to fault anybody for doing that. But I feel like when you describe it that way, maybe they have, those things have something in common.
Well, and overall, I really like the idea of it's such a like good meta bit where she's selling out, but admits that she's doing it on purpose as a goof because she thinks it's funny, but she's going to have a hit record with a ton of streams and she's going to get hella paid and she's going to enter the mainstream consciousness. So really she gets to do a bit, have her cake and eat it too. I have some questions about the satire of the whole thing and how it came off in some instances, but I love the bit. And this song, again, is laying the whole bit out for you. She's going out with a bang. The Charli XCX you knew is gone for all intents and purposes on this album. She's also out of a 5-record deal with Atlantic. There are no chains on Charli XCX. So she decides
Yes.
to do that with this song. Vibes all over.
Yes. And I think, I think I like this idea that it's like, it's people are okay with getting a little weird with the music now, like throwing back to some like really old kind of musical styles, like that kind of house music, some stuff you'd hear in like the mid 90s or in that movie, what's it, Kids, that really
Oh,
fucked up
yeah,
movie.
dude. Great
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah. Like the kind of music you'd hear in that movie, and people are like throwing back to that kind of sound, even back into like the 60s and 70s again. And I think that's such a good thing that it's like all of the technology that we have is able to kind of mimic these things that happened, or like people are just rediscovering that music and bringing it into the current times. And it's making this weird kind of melting pot where songs get weird like this, but they still have that, like, I guess it has that disco backbone, through a lot of it. And it just, the way they do the lyrics and the songs, they oftentimes will do like darker themes than you were used to hearing with that. So it's always this almost jarring kind of experience listening to it. But when someone does it in this way, it's a very interesting experience as well.
Yeah, and this first song in particular, Crash, is just like it literally is a crash. Let me just say, I'm not sure I liked this album. I'm really not. But
Yeah.
I give it so much credit for, again, being such a sly bit. And I tried to look at it objectively, being like, I'm not necessarily having a good time, but this is interesting. And one of the interesting things I think this song does for setting a precedent is leaning more into 90s nostalgia. Because a lot of people are like, oh, it's such an 80s throwback. And it's like, there's some 80s shit in there. There's
Mm-hmm.
some New Order that she like directly lifts. And that's peak 80s. But a lot of stuff really leaned more into the 90s end of things. And I think that's good because the 80s is getting real played out. We kind of
Mm-hmm.
need to lean into a new sound. So, I mean, it was 30 fucking years ago. So I think Charli XCX might be at the tip of the spear here, getting us back into a little 90s
Yeah.
nostalgia.
Yes. And, I think because you had Future Nostalgia from Dua Lipa, that was just like disco, straight up, but had the like kind of EDM qualities to it as well. But it was like,
Yeah.
it was a disco record and it was a very good one. And I feel like this is just, you hear enough that's familiar. And maybe that's why I was able to kind of get into this album, because so much of it sounded very familiar.
Mm-hmm.
It like always sounded like something else that I'd heard before and enjoyed at some point in my life. So she did very well with choosing the influences that she chose to pull from on this one. So I will say that. The next song, New Shapes, was one of my picks, and it does feature Caroline Polachek and Christine and the Queens. Now, this one, I think I just really enjoyed the sound. I think when you were saying you weren't sure if you liked the album, there was a lot of dead weight on this album for me. And I think we aren't really going to talk about any of that, but just that's where I can acknowledge, like, the songs that we're not going to talk about on this episode are generally ones that weren't that interesting in any shape or form. To me, it was just like, those are really dead spots on the album. And we're going to talk about some bright spots. And I think probably you're going to get into some of the more, not controversial, but more polarizing kind of aspects of some things. But this one to me was just a pleasure to listen to. I think they all meshed very well together vocally. I think the lyrics were not complicated, but it was a nice, like, kind of story that you can follow. Like, thinking of me, but you're stuck on the west side again. Maybe we're meant for another dimension, babe. It was like stuff that's like very fantastical and like tossed off, but easy to imagine. It's like not hard to kind of understand those lyrics, and it's very nostalgic feeling as well. And I think that's what a lot of the strengths on this album are, is that nostalgia for whatever era that it's pulling from.
Yeah, the nostalgia is doing a lot of heavy lifting, especially on a song like this, which is just like stuffed with synth patches, and like that like ethereal girls choir vocal backing. So again, I'll use this as an opportunity to say, like, it sounds really nice. I do not think this album was bad. I just don't know if I liked it. The most interesting thing about it to me remains the experiment. It's a fascinating album, which you like wouldn't necessarily maybe think at first glance if you're thinking about like, she's the one that did that, I took a shit into a bag and threw it down the stairs. Like, Like, she wrote
And I'm
something
so
interesting.
fancy.
Yeah. But like,
That song's a banger, though.
yeah,
I just
I
want
mean,
to put that out there.
come on. For a while, Ziggy Eggs was riding high, and Charlie XCX was right there in the sidecar. Um, but yeah, I mean, like, I didn't think, I was like, this will either be a total bop because I know she makes great music, like fun experimental shit. So this will either be cool as shit, or she's gonna whiff hard, and she did neither. And the idea is like the most interesting part of it to me. And this idea of new shapes, like she's kind of, again, it's not going to be an overly complex song because she's trying to make a hit record.
Hmm.
And a hit record doesn't necessarily have to be a super deep thinker. So she's given a standard story, doing it well, making it sound really good. This was one of the more like polished and interesting songs on the album.
Yeah. And I think that's, well, I probably enjoyed the sound on that one more than any other song, just as far as it not be, I mean, there was other things that just like sounded like straight ripoffs. And I mean, there was a straight up sampled song later on in the album as well. So, I mean, there's definitely, when we say nostalgia, sometimes it is really on the nose. But there's not a whole lot else to talk about that one because it's exactly like you said. You know, it's meant all of these bands, like, let's collaborate. All of our fan bases will support this song because we're each on it, and let's get ourselves some plays and some streams and some purchases, you know? So we'll move right on to Good Ones, which is your second pick from the album.
So I went with this one because it was the lead single and the first thing that I heard. And I remember really, really liking it a lot the first time I heard it. I saw the like her with the big teased hair and stuff on the album cover. I don't know if you guys know this, but she's real easy on the eyes. And it just like, I'm like, okay, cool. So we're going for a like late 80s, early 90s kind of vibe. And this is like an extremely like the chorus is so danceable. It's got that great hook. It is a big fat blatant ripoff of Blue Monday by New Order, but that's okay because that is the primary success of this song is the boom boom down 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 down. That whole thing just driving it right up to the chorus, and then in the chorus we get that beat the beat up kind of more EDM style to it.
Yes. This one popped off. I will say that. This song was like, I can absolutely see this one getting played in a lot of clubs that I'm way too old for.
Do you guys know I was alive when the Seinfeld finale happened? Let me buy you a wine cooler.
I was alive before cell phones could take pictures.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, oh my soul.
That's time. Time marches on, my friend. But yes, Good Ones. I don't know. I think it's the banger on the album. I'm trying to think of what other ones might be more considered a bigger kind of dance pop song, and I don't think there's a bigger one.
I mean, considering like public opinion, I would have to agree. It's Good Ones. Yeah. A lot of people were partial to my next pick, not the next song we're going to talk about. My next pick. The next song we're going to talk about would be my personal vote. I vibe on this one hard. I'm glad you picked it.
Yes, Beg For You, featuring your girl, Rina Sawayama. Did I say that right? Sawayama? Yep. Okay. That's right. So this one, I just love the airiness of it. I don't even know how else to really it feels like there's so much space within the song. And the way that it's the melody of the voices, the melody of that beat, like it's just, I don't know. It is such a pleasant, easy song to listen to, and I love it. Probably my favorite one on the album.
Like when you say it like that too, like there's a lot of space in the song. You're like, that's the most apt way to put it, because it like the strength of it is in those moments of minimalism where it's pretty much just their voices and some tones. Like you kind of picture like a big, wide open space that the song just exists in. And then when it kicks in on that chorus, you get an entirely different flavor, but it knows how to pull back and come back in. And it just stays light as a wafer the entire time. It's like, It's smooth, but it fucks. Like, you could take Molly and dance to this. Like, early 2000s, like Sandstorm, like the
Mm-hmm.
kind of like house music.
Yes.
Like, it's tailor made for that kind of vibe.
Yeah. And it's just, I don't know. It gives me all the best feelings that pop music can give you. It's just like pure and simple, just good. It's like Call Me Maybe. The first time you heard it, you're like, oh my God, like this is a fucking rocket ship straight to pop heaven, you know, and that's what this song is for me as well. And I don't know, I just feel like the way the beat drops in, it's just such an easy little ride. You know, it's like you're easing your way, you're going nice. It's a nice water slide, you know, the whole time. You know, you're just landing gently in that water every time they drop that beat. And it's so good.
Yeah, it's great. I
Yeah.
remember I've actually done 2 Charli XCX reaction videos. Now that I think about it, this was one of them, and I just remember digging on it.
Yep.
It's a whole ass vibe. I like this song.
Yes. A whole ass vibe. I like that. Now, moving on to your last pick, Lightning.
We've come to our first clunker that made me wanna gouge my own eyes out.
What was she doing with the vocal little, like the robot voice on
The
this?
vocoder,
Yeah.
too much. She abused the vocoder. Too
Yeah.
much.
She flew too close to the sun.
Way too much shit going
Yeah.
on in this song. The synth pads, the flourishes, all these different elements, the acoustic guitar coming in at one point, like classical guitar. Too much going on. Too much shit going on in this one. It did not work at all.
It's like Beg for You was when Icarus first built the wings. You know, it's the montage where he finally, or I guess when his dad first built the wings. In the montage where he's finally flying. You know, it's finally going, well, that's Beg for You. That's, you know, things are going great. And then we hit Lightning. And this is when Icarus flew himself too close to the sun. And it is the weird vocoder thing. That's the thing. Like, I had to listen to it a couple times just to be able to get past that and be like, okay, stop paying attention to that and pay attention to the rest. And none of it was any good.
No, there's literally nothing redeeming about this. Like, as cool and as versatile and multi-layered and intricate a song as Good Vibrations is,
Mm-hmm.
if you ever get a chance to see the video of Brian Wilson and the Beach Boys working in the studio on that song, it is an absolute delight. But like, as incredible as something like that is, it's like they did a shitty version of it with Lightning, where it's just like Brian Wilson's hearing all these different things and he hears where they all go together, and he's just like, he's using the studio as an instrument. This is literally like somebody leaned on the fucking board and all kinds of unnecessary shit just got added in. It is all over the fucking place. It is gimmicky as shit, just piling all of these effects on to no effect. I hated this, and beyond that, it stole Bizarre Love Triangle's beat. Have you heard that song?
No.
Every time I see you falling, I get down on my knees and pray. It's got that like super
Yeah, I don't know if I'll
80s
have
beat.
to check it out. Yeah,
Oh,
I'll have
it's
to check
great.
it out.
She's clearly a New Order fan because she jacked 2 New Order song beats
Yeah.
on this one, like synth beats.
And I mean, that would make sense because she seems like a weirdo. So it would make sense that she'd like New Order, because I feel like only weirdos like New Order. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but if you like New Order, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's a bad thing because I like New
Yeah.
Order.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. Yeah, just like she definitely, she sampled a lot on this. If not sampled, like came very close to like playing almost the same exact beat. That's what, there's 3 different songs on this album that do that.
Yeah, she almost
Yeah.
do it her Lipa a couple times.
Yeah, because the next one we're going to talk about is, first of all, a banger. I mean, I'm just going to get that right out of the way. It's Used to Know Me. And it takes the song Show Me Love by Robin S., which is the bass line. It's like dun 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 dun. And it's not Robin, the Dancing on My Own Robin. it's a different Robin who was a gospel singer that had her song "Show Me Love" like remixed by these two Swedish producers, and it became like a massive international dance hit. If you hear it, you'll know exactly which song. If you couldn't tell from my expert rendition of the bass line, you'll know exactly what song it is as soon as you hear it. And you'll hear it in this song. If you listen to the Charli XCX version first, you'll hear the bass line and you'll be like, oh my God, I know what that song is. It's an earworm. And then do yourself a favor and go listen to the other one, because that's a banger. But so is this one. Used to Know Me is a banger. I love this one.
I had written down literally my only note for this song: bright, buoyant, danceable, and bird-brained. It's just not, there's no thoughts going on, and that's not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing at all. But I literally, all I could think about was like, oh, it's very bubblegum bright, but you can dance to it. It's a super club hit. And just nothing going on beyond that. It's just chilling. It's just hanging out there. There's literally like nothing else I can say, because it literally was just designed to be what it is, which is the dance hit off of the album.
Yes. And, you know, it is every bit of that 90s house music nostalgia. Like, that is exactly what it is. So if you like very early Robin, or if you know that Robin S song, Show Me Love, which you do, go listen to it. I promise you know what song that is. You are going to love this song, because it is every bit of that. This is, when we say nostalgia, this is the one that's like on the nose with a sledgehammer. I mean, there's no two ways around it. She straight up uses the bass line from a very recognizable song. I think it reached like number 7 on the Billboard 200, which is nuts. That's like every song in existence is qualified for the Billboard 200. And that song, when it first came out by Robin S., was number 7. So you've heard the song. It was everywhere. And it's just, I don't know. Maybe she didn't do much with the lyrics, because she definitely didn't. I feel like Bird Brained is a very accurate description of what went into this song. But God damn it, I loved it.
Yeah,
they tried so hard. They did it.
Oh, they went hard. And it's just kind of stuff that's there to hold the song up, to just give it a little bones. The bones in this case are the lyrics, and everything just kind of goes wild around it. Like, we have to have lyrics. I can't just do a straight up instrumental, because where's Charli XCX's presence on that? People bought the record with me on it. So I got to sing on this one. So I don't know. Hand me the fucking packet of Jell-O. I'll read the ingredients off the side. I don't give a fuck. Song's the thing.
Yeah. And I mean, overall with this album, there was enough on it that I enjoyed, that I was like, if you're already, if you're a fan of pop music, then you're going to find some stuff to like on this album. There's just, I mean, pretty much all I can say about it. So I'll say stream it. What about you?
Since we have some time.
Yes, we do.
I don't yet know what my answer is. I want to chew this over with you for a minute.
Okay.
So once again, I think the whole is greater than the sum of the parts with this one. The overall concept of, I know that I'm capable of making fun avant pop that's like experimental and not afraid to get a little weird. And I also know that I could have a hit record if I just knuckled down and took about 25% off what I'm doing and just move in terms of the template that I've got to make a pop hit and a hit record. So doing that as a goof is very funny, because she knew people would accuse her of selling out, but that's the whole point. She's obsessed with selling out. So she's going to do it as an Andy Kaufman-esque goof. Am I putting way too much thought into this idea that she nailed that aspect of it? But they say the most important part of satire is you're supposed to do a good enough job of distinguishing the ridiculous elements of it. Otherwise, you end up just contributing to the thing that you're satirizing. So did she make a pop album that is going to be a fucking hit and maybe isn't all that great and creative, or did she create a pop happening, an Andy Warhol-esque pop happening where this is a goof album?
I don't know if it goes so far into it being a goof album, but I think there is acknowledgement of the fact that she's trying to make these bangers. You know, she doesn't want to just be featured on the song of the summer. She wants to make herself the song of the summer, you know? And I think there's a certain amount of, you know, the kind of wink and a nod, like, hey guys, sorry, I got to go try to do this thing. But I don't know if she's trying to like pull the wool over anybody's eyes.
No, not be
yeah.
deceitful or anything like that. I just more mean like it's an ingenious thing that you can say you're setting out to sell out and make a mainstream pop hit. And then if you do it, then you did exactly what you set out to do, and no one can really criticize you for doing it because you said it was a bit.
Yeah.
My question is, what would happen if this tanked? You know what I mean?
I think we'd have like the Chris Gaines situation from Garth Brooks. You know, he had this whole thing, this whole character built out, and it was not good. And they pulled the rug out from under him when they pulled that movie. And
that
I
was
think
rough.
because I think they knew that bit wasn't working. And I think she did a much better job if that's what she was doing. I think she did a much better job with this than he did with that.
Yeah. And I'm just like fascinated with the concept. Like, she really can't lose. She'll make a hit, or she'll be like, oh, you didn't like it? Oh, it didn't do well? I was joking. It wasn't a real album. I was joking. And I'm not even saying like that's a cop out or she's a shithead for doing it. Again, I think it's fucking absolutely brilliant and funny as shit if that was in fact what she was doing. She seems to have a really good sense of humor. I don't know. I'm probably overthinking it, but I love the fact that she gave me this gift of this conspiracy.
Well, if that's the case and you love the fact that you can get a full-on conspiracy out of this, I think there's only one answer for you.
It's going to be a stream it with the caveat that if you don't like this kind of thing, this is the kind of thing you're not going to like. So if you don't see yourself listening to Charli XCX, skip this one. If any of this sounded interesting to you at all and you're curious, you're a little XCX curious, jump on in. Jump on in with this one. So I will say stream it with an asterisk.
Look at that. We did it.
We did it.
It was a long road, but we finally agree on an album again.
We solved it.
Well, we're only at, from my count here, about 40 minutes of actual show time.
Yeah.
So, is there anything you want to talk about? Maybe the YouTube?
Oh, we do have a YouTube channel, don't we?
We do.
We do. You can outonthatline find it at outonthatline /C/ nope. YouTube.com/C/ outonthatline. That's the right one. Almost had it. It was right in my hands. YouTube.com/C/ outonthatline. Once again, it is YouTube.com/C/ outonthatline. Yeah, we do cool shit on there. We have some cool shit coming up. I will have a reaction video out by the time this episode airs. I did a little something different this time.
Okay.
So I hope people like it. Yeah, and Tanner and I have it on good authority, are going to, by the time this comes out, have recorded something very cool with our friends in Phantom Airwave. And I think that's going to be
excellent.
Yeah, it's going to be very different from anything we've done before. It's going to be really cool. So
Excellent.
We got that coming up. Do you have anything you want to say about the YouTube?
Well, I think folks should just make sure you get on there and subscribe, because not only do you get these episodes there, so what you're doing right now, listening to this podcast, wherever you're listening to it, you can also do that on the YouTube, where you'll also find all the singles videos, the reaction videos you were talking about, any kind of off videos that we do, the on the record videos you do, the upcoming one that you have sounds like an interview type of situation, but we'll see. It's a surprise. we've got a lot of stuff. We're trying to do a lot of different things on there. So we're continuing to see, some movement in the way that we want to go. And all that is encouraging. So if you're just like encouraging us to be like, okay, good, stop, it's doing the opposite thing. It's making us dig our heels in more and want this to work out more. So if there's something that you want to see on there, on the reaction videos, on the podcast, anything like that, you can find us on Instagram. Probably be the easiest, fastest way to get a hold of us at Out on That Line. You can send us an email, outonthatline1 at gmail.com. On Twitter, it's at outonthatline1. Get at us any of those spots. Let us know what you want to hear in the YouTube comments even. We check those all the time. We got a great one the other day. Someone told you not to quit your day job.
Oh, yeah. We referenced that on the last episode, didn't we?
It's always, the haters make it worth it.
They sure make it fun. It's pretty legitimately awesome to have people be that stupid and mean.
Yes. It's nice that we've got there,
It's super dope.
Yeah, we're past the sunshine and rainbows. It's time for the real nitty-gritty.
Not since a podcasting subreddit told the Skimbo Lounge and every member on it to go kill themselves have I felt such love from an online community.
Oh, no.
Yeah. In the early days, the boys were trying to promote on Reddit, and everyone was just like, this fucking sucks. You guys should kill yourselves.
Well, that's Reddit for you. I mean,
be more constructive with your feedback, please.
I mean, it would have probably been worse on 4chan.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, you want to do something unorthodox?
Sure.
Should we talk on air about what we want to do next week? I got an idea. I don't know if you do. Ideas to the floor.
I don't have it. I don't have any ideas, so hit me.
Tanner made a good point, which is that we do a lot of singles that tend to lead up to albums when we do reactions and singles videos. So like you had a Maren Morris, I had a Maren Morris. Maren Morris had an album come out. Do you have any interest in covering the new Maren Morris for next week?
Let's do it.
I think we're going to get back to our country girl roots.
Yes. Let's do it.
It's about time.
Yeah, I'm down. And I also, we'll mark that down. Maren Morris, we'll do that one. I also want to bring up and promote, I added a CD player to my home stereo console. And buddy, CDs are like $1.99 at Goodwill. And they sound so fucking good on this system. I got the CD player for $25.
Jesus.
It's a 5-disc CD changer. And it gets so goddamn loud, you can hear it down the block when the doors are closed. It is awesome.
You're doing your part in the 90s nostalgia revival, too.
Yeah, that's what, like, when I heard that Show Me Love bass line, I'm feeling all sorts of 90s nostalgia recently.
It's time.
And yeah.
It's been
but
30 years.
I have to recommend that you get like a CD for you when you set up your stereo console with your turntable and everything, whenever you get to where you're moving to, you need to get yourself a CD player because the CDs are cheap as hell. I've got the book, so I just took the cases and just like stashed them in a drawer. Got the little CD binder thing. So they're all right there. 5 at a time.
I have a 5-disc changer upstairs right now, actually. I held on to it.
Dude.
Yeah, I've had it this whole time.
It's so convenient. It's so easy. I never thought for a second I'd ever go back to CDs. And then I did.
And yet here you are.
Yeah.
Dude, they were the best. You pop fucking Alien Ant Farm, Linkin Park, Sum 41.
Oh God, I gotta find the Hybrid Theory CD. I gotta find that. But I got Alice in Chains Facelift.
Oh, good choice. Good pick.
Hell yeah. Aerosmith Get a Grip.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, all right.
Pink Floyd Division Bell.
Ooh, good pick.
Yeah. The Offspring Americana.
Great pick.
Formative album for me.
Yep, great pick.
And they sat in a bunch of Bruce Springsteen.
Of course.
Naturally.
Stay on brand. It'll be harder for me to find Frank Zappa. Oh, we already got him in. Never mind.
Yeah, but I mean, well, it never hurts to cover your bases, you know?
Sure.
Well, we're clearly out of steam here.
I think so. Yeah, it's okay to have a short one. It happens to a lot of guys.
It's just, you know, we'll have to talk to our doctors about that. But till then, till next time.